Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what is happening to the market, what we can expect moving into what could be a pretty eventful week. Don't forget, this week we have triple witching. We have, I think there's fixed expiration if I'm not mistaken. There is also, obviously the big one, of course, is, the rate cut. Do we get no cut? 25, which I think was what the market's currently expecting, 50 basis points. Pretty big week that can absolutely provide some volatility. So be ready, I guess you can say. So jumping into it, let's talk about Tesla. Let's talk about what happened to Tesla. Obviously, big news today, of course. And if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor. And again, I do have a YouTube membership where I share all my thoughts, post updates every single day as the market's open and as the market is trading constantly throughout the trading day. We'd love to have you there. $3 USD includes all my Tesla updates, including sometimes broader market updates as well, SPY, QQQ. $5 a month adds NVDA to that. $7 a month adds non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA stocks to that, and access to the private Discord where you get access to, we have a nice tier 3 chat room, for instance. A lot of members type in there. Every weekend I do chart requests with members on Discord as well. So again, we'd love to have you there, guys. Definitely check it out. Link is below. But yeah, Tesla with a pretty decent day, honestly, right? Gave back a decent amount of the gains, to be fair, but still a pretty decent 3.62% on the day, closing at $410.26. So obviously this was off the news of Elon in the morning. At least it was disclosed that he bought shares. I believe it was on Friday, actually. It wasn't like a pre-planned buy. I think he just straight up went and bought like pretty much $1 billion worth of shares. So pretty unusual, and that definitely caused a pretty big spike, of which of course we gave back about half of it. So what's actually happening with Tesla, right? Do we reject at a key level? What's the next level? What's the support? Well, this level that we kind of slowly dipped our toes into was the start of the resistance level, right? Starting at about 420 to as high as, in my opinion, closer to 440, right? Let me bring this up a tiny bit here. This right here is that range, right? This range is pretty important because this range is where we had this massive fall, and then we had that kind of like almost like a little bear flaggy bounce, right? Remember, this is of course at the beginning of the year roughly, or end of last year roughly. And then we rejected right around this sort of 420 to 440 region. And then, of course, off of that region, we had that substantial move to the downside. So it's a pretty big level. This is a pretty massive pivot point right here that we didn't really get to fully, but we kind of dipped our toes into that range, if you will. Again, 420 to 440. That is a crucial level. But the reason that's also a crucial level is not just because of what I just mentioned. That's obviously one reason, but arguably a potentially just as, if not bigger reason, is because it's the weekly Fibonacci's. I mentioned this before, and I will go over it a bit later into this video, but just worth mentioning, this is a pretty key level coming up that Tesla so far is rejecting from. So moving forward, right, what actually can we expect from Tesla stock? Well, the daily, right? The daily is where I take 90% of my trades from. Sometimes with Tesla specifically, I go in smaller time frames, but the daily is where I look at, for most tickers, when I'm looking for a trade, a swing trade, the daily is like 90% of what I look at. And then of course, mix in the weekly and sometimes very short time frames, maybe if I'm looking for a specific entry. But usually the daily, that's my main one. Right now, the 9 exponential moving average, like I mentioned before, is very, very elevated. We have the 4-hour SMI, also very, very elevated. And now it's not only curling, it's actually crossing, right? These are all signs that I usually see when the stock, for Tesla stock, for a very long time, it usually signals a cool off is about to happen, right? It usually signals the fact that any really meaningful upside from here, so essentially pretty much breaking past 2 days high, is unlikely, right? It doesn't mean it's impossible. This indicator, obviously no indicator is perfect, but this has had a pretty good track record for the most part for a while now. Honestly, pretty much the whole year, I would argue. Even back when we had this massive rally post-election, same idea. It started crossing bearish, and then Tesla stock, it started crossing bearish on these two candles right around here. Right, pretty much these two candles right here. And that's when it started crossing bearish. And then obviously we had that kind of, about a week, if you will. This is a 4-hour chart, of course. About a week of slow downward consolidation, which ended up setting up a bull fly. So it's still bullish. But the time that we're consolidating obviously technically wasn't bullish because we're going down, even though the overall picture was still bullish. I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar like that, to be completely honest with you, right? So just worth mentioning that even on those parabolic rallies from before, this signal was worth monitoring, just to say the least, right? And the daily, right, same idea. If we go back to that exact same flag I just showed, which was this one right here on the 4-hour, we ended up getting very far away from the 9 EMA, which obviously, to me, if it's too far away, especially a large cap stock from the 9 exponential moving average, the risk reward, to me personally, is very bad. If the stock is not even able to come back to the 9 EMA, it's just, you're playing with fire. You're, in my opinion, you're gambling at that point, right? But I'll move to the 9 EMA. From here, you can see pretty nice bull flag, 9 EMA, held, bounced, and then it continued higher, right? I would expect something similar. In fact, I actually expect something similar for Tesla stock in the days, maybe up to a week to 2 max, in my opinion. Again, this can take several days, at least up to worst case scenario 2 weeks, usually around a week, give or take a few days, right? But that's kind of what I would expect from Tesla stock. The 9 EMA right now sitting at 368.44. It's obviously going to continue moving up, but essentially I would want to see some kind of, bull flaggy type pattern, something like this that I just showed you, similar to that, set up around here, and then essentially price meets the 9 exponential moving average. As they sort of meet around here, we get that nice little bull flag, and then I think we go higher. I do think we actually go higher, and I think we actually do enter this sort of resistance level that we kind of, like I said, dipped our toes into today. I actually do think we'll enter it a bit more meaningfully, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see closer to the 430s, maybe even closer to 440 itself, right? It really wouldn't shock me for a few reasons, which I'll go over very, very soon, but that's kind of my current perspective on the daily time frame, right? That's what I'm looking for. If you're looking at it strictly off the daily time frame, it is going to require patience, right? It's not going to happen. You're not going to be in and out, left and right. You're not day trading. You're swing trading on the daily. Sometimes it'll be a day trade if like it just goes parabolic as you enter, for instance, right? Sometimes that can happen, but for the most part, it's slower, more methodical, which is perfectly fine. I want to very quickly go over the 15-minute time frame, and then we'll jump into the weekly. So this is what I outlined to my members earlier, right? I outlined 2 things. So the first thing I talked about was before we broke down here, I mentioned to my members how, we are consolidating here, and this has a chance to be kind of like a little bit of a bull flag fashion and head higher. But it's extremely crucial that we essentially hold the lows of the day, which at least at that point, what the lows of the day were. And then you can see the second we broke past that, right? The second we broke past this region right here, we ended up flushing pretty aggressively, which is why I said, you want to make sure we hold these lows of the day right here, right? That, that's very specifically what I pointed out to my members, pretty much as I was setting up right around 1 p.m. actually it was. So we broke below, right? But now we're setting up, and this tells me that weakness is setting in a bit, right? Short-term weakness is, coming in a little bit, which is fine. But what it's setting up to me roughly right now is potentially a bull flag, right? I actually already see the resemblances of a bull flag starting to set up where, I can kind of take this away. We can already start roughly drawing it, right? It'll look something like this, right? You can already see this one starting to form, right? And it's getting the formation sort of set, something like this, give or take, of course, give or take. It's not absolute perfection yet. It's a little bit of a premature bull flag, but just to give you an idea as to what it can potentially look like, right? Something like this. Let me just draw the bottom part as well, so you guys can. That was a 2xKO tweet that I actually ended up. I didn't know you could do that. Anyway, something like this, right? Give or take, of course, give or take, right? But this is roughly what I would like to see moving forward on Tesla stock. A nice looking bull flag. This kind of sets up the daily. This will bring it back down. Maybe you even get close to the gap fill potentially, whatever. But this sets up a bull flag. It's a bullish pattern. I do expect it to actually break out from here ultimately, right? So it comes down here and then breaks out and then we head higher, right? I would expect something like that. And then that would also most likely bring it back down closer and hopefully, it'll be a perfect set up, if you will, where that bull flag on the 15-minute also has the daily meet the 9 EMA, maybe sometime later this week, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And then from there, we have that bull flag, 15 daily, whatever, 9 EMAs here, price meets, bam, we head higher. That is like the most ideal setup, almost the exact same thing, like I mentioned many times over, that we printed up literally right here. Like this is pretty much what I want to see, roughly. Obviously, it won't be the exact same thing, but the idea, the structure, the similarities, whatever. Something like this is what I'm looking for moving forward. So let's continue monitoring it. Let's see how it actually develops in the days to come. Again, we could see some decent volatility come into the market, especially as we head into Wednesday, right? That's kind of the big day right now. And then we have VIX-piration, right? So, VIX-piration, I think, but we have triple witching. So regardless, expect volatility this week. So that absolutely can play into the fact that, we could get a bit of a down move like that. But that's more or less what I'm expecting. I think a lot of people are expecting Tesla to come back and retest about this 360, worst case scenario 350s. As of right now, I actually don't think that's going to happen. I think it's a little too obvious. I do think momentum is most likely going to be too strong to come down there right away. So again, what I think will happen is going to be bull flag, 9 EMA, head up higher and get a cleaner retest of this resistance zone in the 330s. That's my current expectation, right? If I had to think ahead. But let's see if that actually plays out. The final thing I want to very quickly talk about is the week. Now, this is the bear case. Like I mentioned, I always look at 2 coins, right? I always look at both sides of the coins. This is the bear case, right there. And there's a valid bear case here. Absolutely. There is an absolute valid bear case that is absolutely worth mentioning. The green Fibonaccis. The green Fibonaccis are one of the best Fibonaccis in my opinion because they're the ones that usually trap the opposite side of the trade extremely well. In this case, it'll be trapping bulls. To the downside, it traps bears. Okay, where do I begin? This move to the downside that we had at the beginning of the year was unbelievably aggressive, right? This was one of the most aggressive selling pressures that Tesla has ever seen, ever. that consecutively, that quick, that fast, I think it might be the most, essentially. So you can absolutely make an argument that this whole move that's happening right here, which I know might sound insane, and some people might not believe it. They're like, there's no way. It actually might be a dead cat. And I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. There is the possibility of it being a dead cat. It's a non-zero chance. Now, I don't think this is going to play out. The only way I'll get concerned about this is if, number one, we actually do not break this level, which essentially is 440, which is, like I said, the 430 to 440 region. That's exactly where these Fibonacci's are sitting. Like I said, that is a major resistance level. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a cleaner retest, because usually when stocks really want to trap people, it's going to get into that zone nicely. It'll get right into that zone, and it's going to get a lot of people trapped. A lot of people usually turn, in this case, bullish, or if we're doing a retrace to the downside and we have the green Fibonacci's, a lot of people get bearish, right? I've seen it so many times, especially on NVDA, over and over and over. This could be that as well. Now, I'm not trying to fear monger. I'm not trying to, bring out, oh my God, you better sell before it crashes, right? No, again, it is a risk worth monitoring and mentioning, right? At least in my opinion. I still have long-term shares. I'm still holding shares from like 160 something, 170. I haven't touched my shares at all. Might sell cover calls, but I haven't touched the shares whatsoever in my longer term ports. So I'm saying this as someone that's long the stock. I mean, my shares are like 50 or probably now 60% of the portfolio. But I'm not going to disregard something like this, right? I can't. I don't feel like I'm being truthful if I disregard something like this. So the only time I would actually get worried is, number one, like I said, we just simply cannot break past this level. The bulls really want to break past this. If they do, it's actually very bullish. If they don't, and we just really can't get past this range, that's concerning. It is concerning. It is going to, make me raise my eyebrows a little bit. It's like, well, that's not ideal. We probably want to get past that. You really watch for that in the weeks to come. This is a weekly chart. It'll take time, but I really do think that's worth watching. But that's number one. Number two is if we cannot break it, and especially lose this trend line right here, this very long, very aggressive trend line that the stock has been essentially respecting very, very, very nicely. If we ever break this trend line, so let's say we come here, we come back down, get that retracement, get that nice pop closer in, just can't seem to break it, come back down, consolidate, and then break down. This is where I start getting worried, right? That's where I will start getting worried. If something like this starts to form, I start getting worried. So let's see. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see what actually happens moving forward. We have a volatile week ahead, potential rate cuts as well. I'm pretty sure we're getting 25 basis points. So let's see how it goes. But, it is something worth monitoring, in my opinion. Again, so I'm long the stock. I'm actually long the stock. So let's see. Let's see how it goes, guys. But that's kind of my honest opinion on the stock. So yeah, let's see what happens. The market overall looking bullish. Q's, like I said, above 575 is bullish, and we're continuing to just rally very aggressively. A little too aggressively, I would argue. We're actually getting kind of extended from the 9 EMA. When the market gets this extended from the 9 EMA, it is a bit of a concern, right? We can absolutely expect a pullback to the 9 EMA, potentially Wednesday or Thursday, which just would be a retest essentially of previous all-time highs. I see no actual concern about that. But if we start losing that and turning into a resistance, that's where the issues can start happening. So the ideal scenario is a pullback, retest all-time highs, retest the 9 exponential moving average, and just go higher. That's kind of the ideal bullish scenario. The bearish scenario, or at least something that starts giving bearish signals, is something like this. And that's kind of the broader market. Very quick update. Options flow on Tesla stock, overall very, very bullish. Some bears are definitely stepping in, so it's not absolutely one-sided like it was in the morning, right? In the morning it was extremely bullish, of course, but then bears start to step in. Stock starts to tumble, and bears start to more and more step in. So, towards the second half of the day, I would argue it's still bullishly favored, but the bears they're not quiet. I'm just gonna say that they're not quiet. So again, worth mentioning. But all in all, thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. Peace.